Oh, go to the Lord in prayer, please. Dear Lord, thank you for this beautiful day that we have. Lord, thank you for all of these people assembled here to do the work of Jefferson County. Dear Lord, we pray for continued good health. We pray for continued success as we move forward with the duties that are before us. Dear Lord, for those that are among us who are sick, we ask that you touch them with their healing hands so that they may fully return for service to you. Dear Lord, give us the wisdom, the strength, the courage, and the guidance to do what's right for our citizens and in your name. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Oh, we'll just go down the road. We'll begin with the environmental services, public works, community service, and intergovernmental relations committee. Oh, David, are you here?
I am.
Do you want to do those?
Yeah, the first two, just some power company agreements, just changing the service that we're on for two of our facilities. The second's an amendment with Gartner. This is another amendment to cover some of the changes in the billing system and some of the changes in the schedule for the implementation. And then the fourth is just an amendment allowing us to add funds as budgeted, as we need on the budget for the utility locate service contract for the remainder of this year and next year.
Couple of questions. Forgive my ignorance, but where's Scott's Ranch?
That's the one on Homewood, in Homewood off Lake Shore.
And what is the percentage of billing for the amendment on item 3? What percent of the billing do they do?
What Gartner's doing an oversight part of it. So, as a percentage of the entire contract, it's maybe for the contract with Cogsdale, it's 5% or so.
Okay, Cogsdale does the...
Cogsdale's doing the implementation. They're the system provider, software provider.
Okay, that's about 5%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chair will entertain a motion.
How much on 4? This is additional funding?
Well, we'll put it for next year's budget, for FY23 budget, we'll put it in our budget request. For this year, we think we may need another 100,000 or so. We've got a credit that we're operating under from last year. So we're just we'll probably run a little bit short, but not much.
How are they different from 811? Call before you do.
Well, 811 is the system we have to participate in, and then that requires us to locate the lines. USIC is who we're contracting with to actually go out and do the locates. So 811 basically dispatches USIC.
Oh, okay.
I'll move 1 for 4.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor saying aye.
Aye.
I'll move that.
Second. What?
Yeah. All right. Just one other business infrastructure grant for Revitalize Birmingham.
Move that to the agenda.
We already had a motion, so. Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
What about this number 1 here, infrastructure grant?
Yeah.
That was it?
That's what we just did.
Y'all said to me. Oh,
She was distracted.
yes, she did.
She got hands in the pants over there.
Commissioner Tyson.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I have, it's nothing from Cooper in the corners off, we have the Department of Community Service, Dr. Hamilton.
Good morning, Commissioners. The first item this morning is with Centel Engineering for the Trapper Hydrant Project. This is for the design for that project in the amount of $43,350, and that will be paid out of our CDBG 2021 funds. Number 2 is with ESA for the Rosedale Sidewalks Improvement Project. Again, it's for engineering design, and it's for $44,030, and will also be paid for out of our CDBG funds. Number 3 is an amendment to our PY 2016 HUD action plan. We've had funds left over in some of our bids, and we're just simply moving this money around to take care of some projects that need money, to include the Kimberly Senior Center, the Mocha Storm Shelter, and the Fairfield roof. Number 4 is release of lien for Kenesha Connor. She's paid her loan off in full. Number 5 is the closeout of the Oak Grove Community Safe Room with the State EMA Office. This just authorizes the Commission President to sign all of the closeout documents. Number 6, we've had some PJs or participating jurisdictions not spend all of their funds, and HUD is going through a reallocation process, and it looks like we'll get some additional funds for spending our funds on time. And this basically when they make the decision, we'll only have 7 days to respond, and so that's why we're going ahead and bringing this item forward.
Okay, so that's not been decided, but it's,
yeah.
Would you say it's probable?
It's highly probable. Yes, sir. Number 7 is our 2022-23 one-year action plan. That's something that I've talked to all the commissioners about several weeks ago, about projects in your districts for our CDBG funds, as well as our ESG and home funds for the upcoming program year. Number 8 is the Cooperative Downtown Firehouse Ministries. This is our CDBG public service program, and we're simply allocating $19,113 for emergency shelter services. Number 9 is amendment number 3 to the Lathan Associate Architect for the Docena Community Center. We're just basically extending the time to September 28th. The project is substantially completed, but we're needing some additional time to close the project out. Number 10 is the same situation where we're just extending the time out to September 28th for Jarrett Building for the purpose of closing that project out. Number 11 is for Williford Armand Construction for the Backley Storm Shelter. Basically, we're adding $12,108 to delete the bathrooms and upgrade the generator for that storm shelter. And number 12 is for One Roof. This is a program for our emergency shelter program coming out of our CDBG public services in the amount of $15,500.
Doc, on the Backley Storm Shelter, we received a deduct a month or 2 ago, so that's really just a wash. That's not a
That is a wash. That's correct.
Really, we're still to the good on some of it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I was just checking.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
I didn't want to keep.
Yes, sir.
It's coming out of that same fund.
Yes, sir.
The 1 through 12.
It's been first and second, all in favor, say aye. The Health Department of Workforce Development, Nigel Roberts.
Good morning. Have a resolution authorizing approval of a WIOA grant from the Department of Commerce for CAPT, Workforce Development Training and Employment, for the amount of $3,726,901 for the grant period 7/1/22 through 6/30/24.
What was that amount again?
$3,726,901.
It's in the bowls. And this is for 2 years?
Yes, sir.
Move.
Second.
It's been first and second, all in favor, say aye. Okay, I have no,
You need to keep your hands over there.
Okay.
Yes,
we have nothing from family court. We have youth detention, Dr. Mr. Jackson and Monique.
Thank you, Commissioner. Director Greer is going to make the presentation.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning. Last time we were here with you, we presented to you the jurisdiction, responsibilities, compliance, and accountability for youth detention. And during that time, we also told you that we were not going to make the ask at that time, but we wanted to inform the commission about the roles of youth detention and juvenile justice, and who was responsible for which aspects of that. And we promised to come back before you to make the financial ask at a later date. And so today, we are making the request for ARPA funding, for responding to the safety, developmental, mental health needs, and juvenile justice involved youth. The next slide. And so, pursuant to the American Rescue Plan, the funding in the amount of $679,490 is actually allowable and up under ARPA funding. And what we will be asking for is funding for PPE as well as mental health services and support for the juvenile detention facility. Next slide. Our proposed funding will be within 3 of the expenditure categories, well, 2 expenditure categories and 3 subsections. And the first one will be prevention in congregate settings and personal equipment, the physical plant changes to public facilities, mental health services and substance use. Mental health services, substance use services, and then lastly, education assistance, academic services, social, emotional, and mental health services. Next slide.
Let me ask you a question on
Yes.
this one. Personal equipment, what does that mean?
PPE. Personal equipment, I'm sorry, which section, sir?
EC1, item 1,
Yes.
1.4.
Oh, that's for PPE. Masks.
So-
Yeah.
Maybe personnel equipment.
Personal protection equipment for masks, gloves, bonnets, spray, those things that we would need to keep the facility sanitized and to reduce the spread of COVID.
And what kind of physical plant changes does 1.7-8?
That would be the improvements to the facility that the commission is aware of, and those things are up under general services, have been identified through general services.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. Program services to be supported up under each of the respective expenditure categories and corresponding ACA licensure standards are set below. And here in this section for prevention in congregate settings and personal equipment, we've asked for $46,260. And we were able to reach out to the Department of Public Health to ask for the data that was associated with youth detention from the time that we started conducting COVID screenings, testing, until the present date as of last week, Thursday, and there had been 60 documented infections at the facility for both staff and residents.
What's those dates, time frame again?
That was from the time frame that we started testing, so that was 2020. I apologize. I believe it was July, if I'm not mistaken. And then that was up until Thursday, of last week.
How many this year?
I'm not exactly sure, but I can find out and get that back to you today. I can tell you anecdotally about 10 between residents and staff. Next slide. Commissioner, now here's more of the ask for the PPE and what the personal equipment is, and it's outlined there as far as the masks, gowns, bonnets. These are the items that we will use to reduce the spread of COVID inside of the facility. We use one unit for quarantine housing. So whenever we have any positive cases to come back, for the juveniles, we place them over in that unit. And at that time, we designate one staff member to work that unit so that no one else is coming into contact. And then those staff members are fully dressed from head to shoe coverings so that they are not further spreading COVID throughout the facility. Next slide. The 1.7 to address the physical plant to public facilities. This funding request is being pursued through the General Services Department, and the department has engaged the services of the DLR Group Architects, and will continue to coordinate all activities in the school. Next slide. Under mental health and substance abuse services, here we have that expert research and analysis has consistently shown that children and adolescents who become involved in the juvenile justice system often do so with complex medical, mental health, developmental, social, and legal needs. Most have been exposed to childhood trauma or adversity, which both contribute to their involvement in the justice system and negatively impact their health and well-being. About 20% of adolescents in the U.S. have a diagnosable mental health disorder. Next slide. About 70% of the youth in the justice system, in the juvenile justice system, meet the criteria for one mental health disorder. Approximately half of all mental health problems are established during adolescence, and youth with mental health conditions are at a greater risk for entering the juvenile justice system. In its recently released 2020 report, The State of Mental Health in America, Mental Health America ranked the state of Alabama 45th overall in its national ranking of states based on the prevalence of mental illness and access to care. And that is out of the 51 that will fall to include Puerto Rico.
Well, that shouldn't be that much of a change over time, should it? Or is it, are we moving up or down?
I can barely hear you, I'm sorry.
Move down.
I said, are we moving up or down in the rankings?
We moved down, sir.
That was down.
And if you see the next slide there, the national rankings for Alabama youth in 2020, in the 2020 report, were as follows. Youth with at least one major depressive episode within the last year, we ranked 13th. Youth with substance use disorder in the past year, we ranked first. So Commissioner Knight, we actually are doing well there. Youth with severe major depressive episodes, we ranked second. We are doing well there. But youth with a major depressive episode who did not receive mental health services, we ranked 43rd. And students identified with emotional disturbances on an IEP, we ranked 51st, Commissioner Stevens.
So we getting worse?
Well, we're going next. So for children with special needs, developmental delays, those that need extra services and support in schools that have individualized educational programs, those students in the state of Alabama are ranked 51st.
That's a federally funded program. That's not, we receive federal dollars for that, and it seems like to me that we may be needing to go back and revisit that with our state board.
What's that, sir?
The IEP. You get,
Yes,
those
sir.
are federally funded dollars.
Yes,
That
and
program is federally funded.
and to your point there, actually, the state is very challenged with special ed teachers. And so those youth in detention struggle even more than those that are in the public school setting.
Because of,
The limited staffing that they have, and Birmingham City Schools are our LEA, which is our local educational agency, and so they are already struggling with the number of special ed teachers that they have available. And so, I guess if the determination has to be made where those resources are going to go, then they're to the school first before they're.
And the lack of mental health
Services.
that's actually in the school system and treating you, putting them in detention is not the answer for mental health punishment.
And part of this goes back to the least restricted environment.
Yes.
When the school systems went to that least restricted environment, you took them out of the special needs classroom and put them out in the general population with everyone else, and it didn't work.
You're
That's
exactly
just,
right.
tell it like it is.
Yes, it did not. And then the other part about that is, unfortunately, we have somewhat criminalized mental health.
Absolutely.
So that those with mental health needs aren't being able to be addressed in the community because the hospitals are to capacity and many of the mental health hospitals around the country have closed, and so that they aren't able to receive those services out in the community. Therefore, they're getting them in detention primarily. On the next slide here, we wanted to speak to how we can go about providing these services to youth. So to ensure full compliance and accountability with regards to its responsibilities under the Alabama Juvenile Justice Act, and for the safety, for the care, safety, and rehabilitation of youth placed in custody, and consistent with its mission statement, goals, and objectives, the following program services will be required, and we are looking to have Dr. Cohen, who spoke with us before, from UAB's Adolescent Medicine and Psychological Services, to provide a clinical psychologist at a rate of $15,000 per year. This is part-time, for cognitive-based therapy sessions for individual and group, and then a nurse practitioner who will prep and package the medications for the youth, as well as do the COVID screenings for us, COVID testing there on site. And where it says medication preparation and packaging, right now our juvenile detention officers are having to do that. They receive the prescriptions, and those officers are having to prep and package the medication and also administer those dosage. So it is vital that we have them trained, but also that we receive that medical support to reduce the number of errors that may occur. Next slide.
You talk about the medication preparation, is that to treat their underlying mental disorder, or is that something that's related to COVID?
It could be a multitude of different reasons. Any medications that they take, they would package and prep those medications for us. Primarily, they take mental health medication. Overwhelmingly, that's what it's for. We've also requested psychological services, psychiatric services, and Nietzsche Mental Wellness will be able to provide psychological assessments, advanced crisis intervention, initial prescriptions and medication management, and also follow-up services. Premier Mental Health Services will be able to offer us counseling sessions for group, anger management, coping skills, life skills, individual and crisis intervention, emergency and after hours. The benefit of having this dynamic here is that these providers already work together in the community, and so we will have an in-reach type of service where those services and supports can start in detention, but also follow up for a continuum of care into the community so that the youth aren't having to start all over with providers once they are released. This will help to reduce the duplication of services in the community as well. Next slide. Education assistance and academic services. In addition to securing residents' safety, the center is also responsible for residents' continued educational and social development, which entails providing a regular program of grade level appropriate academic instruction, counseling, and physical education and recreation. residents' health and wellness, including management and distribution of prescribed medications as may be required, and transporting ill or injured residents for medical care and services and other ancillary services when necessary or required. And often, almost daily, we are transporting residents to various appointments, whether they're physical health appointments or mental health appointments through court orders. One new thing that we're seeing is that we are encountering those with gunshot wounds, and so we're having to take them multiple times a week to receive physical health services. Next slide. To ensure full compliance and accountability in regards to its responsibilities under the Act, and also those that youth that have been placed in custody consistent with our mission, goals, and objectives, we are desiring to implement the right track system. This will allow for us to have better control of our records management, staff and educational training reports and schedules, residential records for treatment, counseling, and medication, and also data compilation and analysis for intake, release, recidivism, etc. So, Commissioner Knight, oftentimes you ask, like you did a little bit earlier, about what the rates of COVID were for this year, or maybe the last time, what are our successes? Because we don't have the software system currently that can track those things for us, or without reaching out to the court, family court, to generate reports for us, we really can't answer those things ourselves, and oftentimes have to go and seek the services of others. But if we're able to implement this right track system, I would be able to generate those reports in-house. And if you'll see with that cost there, where it says phase 1, $95,000, and the implementation, $9,900. Sir, for the implementation, that's a one-time cost. That's to stand the system up. And then each year after that, it will be $9,900 for maintenance. And that is cheaper than our current system that we're utilizing now, which is right at $14,000.
Is there any integration between court and right track?
No, there isn't. Family court uses their own system, and it is through the AOC. And so they actually have two systems that they utilize, but our systems don't talk.
Would you want them to?
I think it would be ideal, but as we said in the last meeting that we had, or presentation that we had before you all, there are many laws that prohibit that from happening. Though it seems like it would just make sense, but those are some hurdles we need to overcome. Information sharing.
Or they don't want their record followed.
When you think about HIPAA, you think about
Yes.
Youth Offender Act.
But actually, when you think about it, Theo, you can help me with the correct term on that, but if I'm acting as parent, when they're there with us in detention, there are certain basic things that I would need to know to make sure we're caring for them appropriately. And when the court receives them back, when they're released from detention, there are things that have occurred in detention that you very well may want to know.
Right.
So it would make sense.
You think at some level,
Absolutely.
not fully integrated, but.
Correct. At a need to know basis.
Right.
Yes. The next slide, please. The other system that we would like to implement is a comprehensive integrated digital program targeting successful community reintegration. It will provide a centralized location to ensure continuum of care, to minimize recidivism, and also customize and deploy an interactive platform targeted communications and real-time alerts to reduce redundancy across multiple systems. And if you'll go to the next slide, I would like to share with the commission, though this looks pretty futuristic, this is a real app that has been developed for youth detention. This is a demo of it, and at a later time I would like to show the commission it live. But we already have this in demo form. And if we were to click on these various buildings, we would go into, it's not what I felt, but if we would be able to go into them and it would open up and be able to access integrated services. So Commissioner Amos, just like you said about the systems talking to one another, where our software systems would not talk to one another, the app could. And so here's an opportunity for youth detention to come in and put notes in for the probation officer to see. And also for the medical providers to come in and put certain things in for others that need to know. They need to be able to see that would not be a violation of it, or that would not be a violation of other rights that they have. And one of the beautiful things that I think could really come out of this is oftentimes we see the recidivism number rate as high as it is. Mostly it's technical violations, meaning that young person has broken a curfew, didn't attend a certain class, things of that nature. And sometimes it's because of transportation or parents not being able to get off. And so if you had mom at work and she could take a 30-minute break and they could get on the anger management through the application, the kid could be at home using the same device that they use at school, the Chromebook, and get on. And you have the provider there also virtually as well, because that's one of the good things that came out of COVID is it opened us up to being able to do things remotely. Then you could reduce the amount of times that a young person may be violated because of extenuating circumstances.
Is there any research on that, the use of this digital programming?
Yes.
That actually shows that it works and is successful because it reduced recidivism from X to Y?
Yes, sir. And
Is it in here?
it is not in here, but when I'm able to, and at a later time, when we are able to launch the demonstration, we will be able to provide that data for you. And it's being used in various models around the country, in the academic, in academia, as well as correctional settings. Next slide. Exodus Counseling Services is also incorporated into that Anchor for Tomorrow technology, the app that we reviewed on the previous slide. And they will be able to provide the counseling services, career readiness pathways, vocational certifications, and workforce development virtually. Mental health training will be facilitated using a hybrid format, in person and online. And then also progress and incentives can be tracked using the application. So one thing that we really wanted to do is incentivize the young people and their families, as well as staff as they go through the various models, and incentivize them to participate more. And we can be as creative as we like in ways to do that, but the app will feature that. Next slide. And then we have here Tutor Time for You. Tutor Time for You is a virtual tutoring program. It's individualized assessment to determine the student's need, ideal for students with IEP. It's a 1-hour in-class observation. We selected math and English instructional time. And so the virtual tutor would sit through one math class, one English class, so that they would know exactly what the students are learning, what the expectations are, and then during their one-on-one tutoring time, they'll be able to follow up with them on what those standards are, and if the students are performing below grade level, they will be able to work with them to coach them up to the standard that they need to be. The afternoon tutoring with residents based on the daily lessons and materials, evaluation, completion of mental health check-ins after each session, which will occur 3 times a week. And then in phase 2, we can add additional courses, electives, and job readiness training.
Now, these are offered while they're in your facility?
Yes, sir. Yes.
I was gonna say, hey, you're gonna make them comply with that.
Is there anything that's a follow-up after they leave the facility?
So ideally, Tutor Time for You would like to partner with the school, would like to partner with Birmingham City Schools so that this could be a continuation of those services. Not only that, AFT has incorporated it where tutor time for you can be on the platform for the app. And so the students would just put on tutor time for you to do their services remotely. We've already spoken with Sri and IT in the background to make sure that it's safe and secure, and there would be limited opportunities for any type of data breaches, and they were very comfortable with that. Emotional, social, emotional, and mental health services. So Exodus Counseling and Training and Wellness Services, they will have the mental health training utilizing evidence-based practice model, measurement, feedback, measure relevant practices for staff, residents, and their families, mental health training that will be facilitated using the hybrid model. Oh, I'm so sorry. I did that slide already. I'm sorry. Next slide. Okay, and this is our last slide. And so Premier Mental Health Services will provide the counseling services, anger management, coping skills, life skills, individual and crisis management. I mentioned that earlier, but here in this setting, it would be more so assisting with staff in dealing with these residents. Oftentimes after hours, we receive very combative prospective residents that come into the facility, and they're fighting with law enforcement. Of course, they don't want to be detained. They're having psychotic episodes and mental health breaks, and we don't have any support. We don't have anyone that we can call to provide us that type of resource at this time. So pretty much we're left to figure it out. The MANT system, they provide mental and behavioral health training, and they will teach us some de-escalation techniques that were developed in a hospital and clinical setting, but they are specific to juvenile detention centers. Use of force training, advanced high-level threat for attacks, basically it's a self-protection for staff, and then floor techniques for surviving ground assault. And then lastly, we would like to purchase the bowler wraps. And so this is a mental and behavioral health training, pre-escalation apprehension tool. It can be utilized, it's not harmful in any way, but it's a way to distract the resident and also to restrict them mentally until staff can go in and use the minimum force necessary to gain control of the situation. It also safely and humanely restrains resisting subjects from a distance, facilitating a positive outcome that doesn't result in injury or any use of force.
What, this is a device?
Yes, sir. And so it's like a deployment. It's a handheld device, and when implemented, it basically goes out. It'll make you think of like a little dragnet almost, but it's these threads that come around and then wrap around the body. And so you can do it from a distance. So if I were standing here and I were to deploy it at you, I could just hold it in my hand.
No, deploy it at Barnett.
Okay. Deploy it over and it would go off, but it would wrap around. And it fires very loudly. It sounds very, I shouldn't say fire. It sounds very loudly. And so the noise alone will distract them enough to pay what's going on, giving staff enough time to go in and restrain them. So Commissioners, I would like to thank you for your time and answer any questions that you may have.
All right, this is a $679,000 total ask, as I recall, right?
Yes, sir.
And that is from ARPA funding.
Yes, sir.
And then how will you suggest that we pay for it the second year?
So much of the cost here is for extending the programs up and for implementation, like
A lot of
Rachel's
it's
on.
the counseling and the one-on-one and the virtual stuff.
Yes,
Do you
sir.
have a breakdown of what might be in the second year, because you're going to put that in your budget?
Yes, sir, and I already have placed it in the budget as well. But it is ARPA eligible, and those funds run for the next 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. But I did add it to the budget as well.
Has WIT signed up on
What bucket?
Widow Bryant, yeah.
They said it was
What
ARPA
happened?
eligible and
They-
allowed.
What bucket of money would that come out of as well?
The mental health bucket, and we're working with O'Brien now to see what's eligible and what's not.
So we're not,
Yes, they said all of these things were eligible and allowable.
They said they were eligible.
Well, we have, I mean, we work with them, then they send us a memo in writing, and then that's, we have not got that yet.
And I'm gonna.
But we should have a good bucket for it, and it should already be, in y'all's.
I'm gonna echo what Commissioner Wright said, that when you look down the road, multiple years, and knowing that that's, doing a projection, even though we have 3 years of ARPA, once that goes away, I mean, we don't want, all of these are very purposeful. So how do you plan for it in the fourth year? And make sure that there's actually gonna be some kind of funding there for the future. So when you stand these up, there's not a huge, gas, because there's not enough to do what you really need to do.
Right, and what we are hopeful for is that through the partnership that we are establishing with those that we brought to the meeting room the last time, the mayor's office, DYS, some of the others, that we can look at the services that we all provide, and that we can streamline those services so that we're using them most effectively and most efficiently, so that maybe youth detention doesn't have to bear the brunt of all of it. Maybe we better utilize what the fourth is doing, we better utilize what DYS is doing, and also Birmingham can support as well. So that is also what we're working on.
I appreciate that, because we're often inefficient.
Yes.
Right.
And how can we be more efficient and work together?
Yes.
Commissioner, I'd like to thank Monique and Walter, who've been working on this for months, trying to understand the system. And I've learned from them, the system's broke. So when you look at the kids, what's happening to the kids, where they get shifted around, it's not the best thing for them. This is kind of a Band-Aid, and I've asked Monique to look at helping us and make recommendations for corrections, legislature, health, and that kind of thing, more state funding as well.
is this is the 679,000, is that I think I tried to ask a little bit, is that for this year, and then you're gonna come out and get more ARPA next year, or is this to cover that 3-year span that is available?
We will come back and ask for them.
And what about your physical facility? We're pretty deep in the ARPA funds on that too, right?
When you say the physical facility, you mean the renovations for the
Yeah.
building? That will be general services.
Yeah,
I understand.
the building is,
Yeah, I'm not aware of the.
I can explain it. So the building is about 30 years old, and it needs severe upgrading now, along with the additional kids she gets and the mental issues and the, what's the word, not rioting, but some of those type things we have to deal with now. The upgrades are probably 25 million. That's changing, and we think we're eligible for ARPA up in a range of 15 million. And we're having to work through that carefully, because ARPA will only cover certain issues.
Commissioner Evans, one last thing that I would like to say to the point you just made about inefficiencies. We're not trying to fix broken systems. It's waste. What we're trying to do is build what comes next. And so if we work to that end, we cannot be, we can reduce redundancy, we can reduce duplication of efforts and resources across systems. The first thing we need to do is get out of our silos, talk to one another, find out what the other is doing, and then who does it best, or who can do it best.
Talking my language, I love it.
Yeah, and I agree with you where we need state and help, we need DYS, we need courts, we need Birmingham. We really don't have any of that, right?
Well,
Other than
they've come to
state.
the table now. They have, and the mayor's committed to.
You know, one thing that I haven't heard is coordination with the school systems.
Oh, yes, sir.
That's something that if, go ahead.
I said they did come out.
And what's the,
I heard one, I didn't hear all.
Yes, sir. We reached out, Terry Roller came from the state
Right,
Department
right.
of Education. Birmingham, they had some changeover, some transition in the person that we used to have as our direct liaison. But we have been in communication with them. Miss Constance Burns is our point of contact from Birmingham City Schools.
What about county?
From the county.
County.
Since Birmingham City Schools is our LEA for youth detention, we've just been working with Birmingham City Schools. Because the county, they don't provide education for us at the facility. It's Birmingham City Schools, because it's based on where the facility is located.
what are the poor kids in the county?
They all come to detention, but the school is wherever the school is, whatever school is zoned for that area. So based on the physical address of detention, it falls into Birmingham City Schools.
And they would get the same treatment and the same education.
So they're students, like Sarah tried to explain to us, they're their students, and then when they leave and go back to their home school, all their records and everything will just transfer back with them.
What is your,
No, I was thinking of the correlation between this and the alternative schools that the county system had, which they were, it sounds like without the incarceration part of it, it seems like you're doing about the same thing that they were doing. Most of the kids had ankle bracelets on. And we're handled through that particular area, but
I know they still have GP. That's the alternative school for
Yeah.
Birmingham.
yeah, well, I've been out of education a while, I was several around the county when I was there. And it gave the kids an opportunity to maintain their education and to give them an opportunity to succeed. Most of it was based around vocation. And it seems like you have to give them an alternative. You've got to show them a pathway out of the spiral that they're in. And without that, you got to give them hope.
yeah, but you gotta give them something tangible that they can actually feel like they have made their step.
That's right. And that's what we've been able to do with the credit recovery program, which is to bring that in so that they actually are doing that virtually. It's self-paced. And they are gaining those credits so that they can see, okay, I finished that class and now on to the next one. And partnering with the judge, she is holding their feet to the fire, for lack of a better term, and making them finish that before they leave the facility.
What is your average number of residents?
On average, here lately, I would say about 45.
Here lately?
Yes,
Is that-
since COVID. About staying pretty consistent. Right now, we're at 54, but average.
Now, that law change where you all have to house those kids that are accused of capital crimes?
And the other part about that, that's House Resolution, forgive me, that's House Resolution 6964, which was signed under the Trump administration. And that law, it has required that all youth that are tried as adults, that are being tried as adults that are held in the county facility, in the county jail, are supposed to be returned to the youth detention facility. And we have worked with ADECA, the state has, and the governor has taken her position. And so the position right now for the state of Alabama is if a case was a direct file through the adult system, that they would be treated as adults. However, if it's a transfer case from the juvenile system over to the adult side, then technically those should return.
What's that House resolution again?
6964, and I have it electronically, I can send it to you.
Would you please?
Thank you very much. Next, we have the Administrative and Infrastructure Committee, Roads and Trans. Heather's not here, I'll just go ahead and run through. You are, go ahead.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We have several items on the agenda. The first is payment for a right-of-way tract on Morgan Road. The next is professional services for right-of-way acquisition for the Caldwell Knoll Road project. That's an LDOT participating project. We have a 80-10-10 split with Shelby County. The next two are lost the word. Resolutions for changes either to speeds or for stop signs. And we have the design contract for the Macashan Interchange Improvement Project, and another right-of-way tract, and the contract for design for Cahaba River Road, and an agreement to do a signal installation for the city of Gardendale participated in by the state.
All right, I have $1 million for a design for Macashan from Old Tuscaloosa to Rock Mountain. That's not a very long stretch.
No, but it's bridge. So it's a bridge and interchange ramps and widening. It's a fairly complex project.
Who wants to read?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Next, we have County Attorney, Workers' Compensation Claims, a resolution for Global Advisors, authorized Commission President to execute an engagement letter with Global Advisors. You want to?
Commissioner, that's in connection with our potential refunding. They would act effectively as our tender agents as part of our
Tender agent.
Correct.
And then a resolution for underwriter syndicate for the sewer refund, along with the minutes for the commission meeting on June 9th. Have a motion. Second, all in favor say aye. Aye. The sheriff came in, wants to add to the agenda. There it is. Consideration for funding for the World Game. So, Sheriff, you got it? Or
I will give y'all this image here. Kind of thick, it's not really. I did, and it was a lot.
Thank you, Commissioner, President Stevens, and to all commissioners, Sheriff Penway. We're here because we have a budget item that was not figured into our budget. We have the World Games coming up in a few weeks, and we're preparing for the World Games to come here, and we want to make sure that we're ready to have security at all venues that we will be covering for the World Games. Now, we have it broken down individually what it will cost for us to cover the World Games for 9 days. Budgetarily, every person is listed in there what the cost will be for every individual. Plus, we have 13 contract individuals, which we will add to what we're doing. And we do have an amount for those individuals. So we're asking that you look over our budget that we have there, very transparent, very detailed, showing every venue, everybody that will be at those venues, and what will cost for each venue every day to make sure that we have proper coverage for World Games for those 10 days.
Are you getting any funding from War Games?
We're not getting anybody from anyone.
So none of the other jurisdictions, I mean, is Birmingham's taking the lead?
Birmingham is taking the lead.
Do you know how many other jurisdictions they have involved as well?
Locally, well, that's part of the problem. Initially, we were told we were gonna have Barber Motorsports Park, which we worked out there regular, and John Carroll High School. And as agencies started to pull out from Birmingham PD, they asked us to take over the BJCC, which is the largest venue, that there is. We have 4 venues just inside the BJCC that we're responsible for. So we were planning on that along with Barbers and John Carroll. And then about a month and a half ago, they asked us to help them with 8 more at Battle Auditorium with the supervisor, and 15 per night with, and that's gonna take about 3 or 4 supervisors at City Walk, because they're having concerts underneath there, and Aaliyah pulled out from helping them with City Walk. I know the local agencies that are helping, Hoover and Pelham, are handling their own venues. They're not going anywhere but Hoover Met and Oak Mountain State Park. Aaliyah is handling Legion Field by themselves, so they don't need additional help. Obviously Birmingham PD, a lot of their resources are gonna be holding this huge barrier around downtown, for the northern area. Gardendale is providing 12, Mount Brook's providing like 4, Miss Davis providing, I think, 8. So there are some agencies, Homewood, there are some agencies that are participating, but I think the ones that were further off start pulling out. Jasper is coming, Huntsville's coming, Florence is coming. They're sending Mobile and Montgomery, they're sending EOD or explosive technicians up and bomb dogs. So it's a heavy lift for the sheriff's office that was kind of been put on us gradually, but just recently. And the numbers that we used to come up with the scheduling, just so you know, those weren't just random numbers we picked out. What they did, the World Games, Birmingham Police Department, Homeland Security, the Secret Service, and the FBI went to each venue, and they did site assessments at each venue, and they came up with a recommendation or what they thought we needed to put there to do it. So basically, we went with their plan, basically because we might think we could do it with less, but if something happened, then they'd be like, well, we told you you needed to have this in place. So we're going with their plan, and that's where we got the numbers from. And so everybody in the department is going to 12-hour shifts with no off days for those 10 days and no vacation.
So a lot of the expense would amount to a lot of overtime.
Yes, sir. Because you're going to have approximately 200 to 250, I don't have that exact number, I apologize, working World Games primarily. The rest of the department is going to be handling our day-to-day functions. We've staffed, we made sure we've staffed Bessemer Patrol, Forestdale, Center Point, Birmingham Jail, Bessemer Jail, all those are still staffed, to handle that day-to-day demand.
What about North Jefferson? It's North Jefferson County. It's kind of light up there lately.
It's not been light up there lately. They still have the same amount of personnel assigned to that area. Don't believe everything you see on social media.
I didn't see the social media. I just hear from people in there. That's the same.
No, there's not been any change.
From the numbers, it looks like patrol staff is going to actually get a little bit higher during the World Games, just for the fact we're doing the 12-hour shifts with no off days. And we're hoping with the schedule we'll get.
Well, you were saying, well, so-and-so pulled out, so-and-so pulled out, and they told us they need us to go. Who's that?
Birmingham PD asked us to take. Birmingham Police asked us to take that on.
Some of these costs, you got all the personnel already invested. So the $1 million, is that additional, all of that additional hours they're working, or is
That's
that
overtime.
So it's all overtime?
That's strictly overtime.
1.2 million in overtime for 10 days.
That's
All right, let me just ask you this. Say we got something going on out in Avondale, say the archery stuff. How many would it require you all to staff?
Someone else is staffing.
No, we're not staffing that. We're staffing the BJCC, which is the arena, the concert hall, the East and North Exhibition Hall, Barber Motorsports, and John Carroll. Barber Motorsports is 1 week, John Carroll's the next, so we're only doing one at a time. One is one period, one's the next. And then Boutwell Auditorium, we're assisting Birmingham with Boutwell, and City Walk, which is every day.
What is, I'll look at this, what the,
And the additional for to meet the staffing demand, we've got 13 of our SRO contracts that have volunteered to work the World Games, and at their contract rate, it would be $3,500 per deputy, which is $45,500 to pay those 13 contracts, which we were talking to the payroll folks before we came up here. We just have to do a small contract that would cover that short period of time and pay them that X amount of dollars for that period of time.
And then you have your special resources, which is your SWAT team and all that.
SWAT, Bob
You've got it
Squad,
set
Bob
aside for
Dogs.
each day, right?
Yes, so they're dedicated just to the way the SWAT team is utilized. 2/3 of our team will be at the BJCC. 1/3 of our team will be at Barbers or John Carroll. They're called quick response team or QRFs, and they're there if there's an active shooter or what have you to be immediately on site to take care of that situation if it comes up. They have in the northern area, the FBI SWAT team is the actual dedicated SWAT team. So if there was a need for a full SWAT deployment, FBI's SWAT team would work with ours. The bomb technicians, we have half of our bomb squad is going to be working at the Barber John Carroll event. The other half is going to be working the BJCC. And same thing with our explosive detection dogs. We have 5 of those, and they're going to be split equally between the two. And that's the special resources we're using. I know the MAC, I think they're providing maybe the helicopter and a few other things, but that's separate from what I'm lining up.
With all the vacancies y'all have, can you use some of that money to cover this, or is this all additional asks?
We haven't looked at what the budget have, looking at the budget for right now. We just want to make sure we have everything covered for the World Games. I also want to give you an invitation. Tomorrow we have a media day at the Academy. We'll have on display tomorrow all our resources for the media. The resources that will be used for the World Games will be on display for everybody to have a walkthrough tomorrow to be able to see what we'll be bringing to the World Games. So invite each and every one of you all out to the Academy tomorrow to be able to see the resources we have and for the media day tomorrow.
What time?
10 o'clock tomorrow.
Any questions?
I'd like to see some numbers, what Cal was asking about, shouldn't have something in the budget that maybe could mitigate some of this 1.2 ads. Take a look at that.
Okay.
I'll move it to the agenda, but depending what.
Can we wait until Thursday to get the information, then we could add it unanimous consent? Because it would take unanimous consent now, and I'm not willing to do anything until we have more information
Okay.
We'll look at for.
The CFO will look at the look at your funding for your different things. If any way we can adjust your budget within your existing budget right now, and then if we get toward the end of the year and you need to make changes, we can do it then. That way, we understand.
Yeah.
Your dilemma. And
And
we're working through, we're not kidding you, we're not doing that, Sheriff. We're kidding you, we're gonna work through it, and perhaps that's the way to do it, is to work within the existing budget now, so we don't have to do anything, and then if we get toward the end and we need to make adjustments, we can. And do that accordingly.
Y'all been kind of a bad hand too, because y'all are asked to do this kind of in the last minute thing.
Our responsibilities increased.
What
Our responsibilities increased as time went on, and so we had to maneuver when it comes to manpower to take away off days and vacations to make sure that everybody's safe coming to this area for World Games.
Hey, Sheriff, let me ask you one more
Yes, sir.
question. Does this account for fuel and the extra expense in fuel and?
No, sir.
You may want to consider that as well, with fuel prices being what they are and the base, even our base rate going up.
Now, most of the time, vehicles will not be running, they will be stationary. I don't think it's gonna be a real difference in the cost of fuel. We're not on patrol, we're stationary at these sites, so if we were on patrol, then there was probably a difference in the cost.
I did check with fleet management. We kind of determined, just talking through, that based on the fact that most of these vehicles are just going to be parked when not running, with the exception of K9 vehicles. There's not going to, they don't anticipate an increase of fuel usage, because he had the same question, Mr. Tyler, about do we need to order additional fuel for it, and they didn't predict that we would use any more fuel than normal.
Now we could use the helicopter a little bit more than usual. That cost may escalate a little bit. Hopefully we can do more drones, but right now we're using the helicopter, but that cost may increase. So that's probably the only fuel cost that may increase just for the helicopter.
What would you use the chopper for, just to kind of keep an eye on things?
That's correct. That's correct. And they be feeding into the back center from different venues. So we will have the helicopter up and operational for most of the duration of the time that the work needs to be going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good to see you.
Yeah, Bill. See you tomorrow. Good to see y'all tomorrow.
All right, District 3.
Got refreshing?
I'll go up and order them now.
They got an infrastructure grant, City of Grayville, for restriping their main. All in favor, say aye.
I did have one question for Cal, on county manager, just understanding that the heat, maybe be experiencing over the next week, maybe 2 weeks, and, how employees are being looked after, and especially road crews and stuff like that.
Yeah, good question. Each department I checked with this morning is providing coolers with ice, Gatorade water, extra breaks, and then I think Heather then involved some, what'd you call them?
We have,
Cool
some
vests.
cool vests, we have the bandanas, cooling pads, and the hats, extra PPE for them to help with the heat.
Light, body armor, something.
Try to ask people to lay off the energy drinks.
Well, we try to keep them on the water and the Gatorade
Well, that's what I'm saying.
and not the other stuff.
Well, the Lights, Gatorade on steroids. Stuff like that. All right, purchasing, finance.
I'm over here.
Doc, come on in. I was wondering why you stand up when you could have a seat, sir. But, go ahead.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. I'm standing in on behalf of our CFO, Ms. Angela Dixon, and I want to present items 1 through 5 and entertain any questions that you may have, and also include the rest of the agenda.
I have one question on something.
I do too.
The amount on number 4, the professional translation interpretation services.
And also why?
Yeah.
I had the same one. What I mean, translation services.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. Oh, because one, we live in a multi-language area. Family court also needs to have translation services on the staff for their audit purposes. And we're hoping that it'll be used more through public relations. The cost is based on historical costs right now.
So we've done translation services in the past?
Not as much as I'd like, but
And how much?
I would have to look and get the specifics.
Back up on that. All right. And then on this, item 5,
Mm-hmm.
the Buy-Board National Purchasing Cooperative Participation Agreement. Did we pay to get into that?
No, sir. No, sir.
Why is it, I mean, what's different than that, the department?
Basically, what we do, there are several different cooperatives that are approved by the state. This particular cooperative here has a contract for web-based budgeting software that Roads and Transportation needs. So we were not a member of it, so we need to go ahead and become a member of it so they can get this web-based software.
All right. And I didn't see a unusual demands report in my agenda earlier in the agenda. So I guess we had no unusual.
No unusual demand. That's good news.
Was it unusual?
Yeah.
All right, do I have a motion 1 through 5?
I move 1 through
I
5.
have a motion. All in favor, please say aye. Budget Management Office
Y'all got an answer, it's $15,000 for the foreign language service, by translation services. Oh, that was back in 19, I think it was a flat funding. We'll get that to you.
multiple staff development. Do I have any questions?
Move it.
Have a motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you, Doc. Great job. All right, developmental services.
Good morning, Commissioners. So all 6 of our items are for post-construction operation and maintenance agreements that we have with multiple individuals for new development and redevelopment projects that are disturbing over an acre. And this is to be in compliance with our Article 14 of our subdivision and construction regs.
And I'd like to point out, Commissioner, where this comes from, the new MS4 rules through ADM and EPA. In the past, we managed the actual construction. So let's say you're building a subdivision and a retention pond. We manage the prevention of that erosion getting off-site during the construction. The new law requires us to hold people accountable for maintaining that retention pond or certain apertures so that it functions from now on.
But what if it fails?
This agreement makes, ultimately, we may have to do something, but these agreements hold the homeowners associations to set up and maintain them.
And if that fails, they revert back to
That's to us. So there's no funding with the new law, just a law making the county do something.
Of course not. All right. Are we done?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good.
If you have any questions.
Any questions on 1 through 6? So, have a motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. General Services.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good.
General Services.
Wow.
General Services has 2 items on the agenda this morning. The first item is an amendment to the Premier Boiler and Combustion contract that we have. We're adding 5 additional boilers for maintenance. And the second contract is Gory Reagan. We're going to a cloud-based software for the flat lot parking system.
Ms. Wilkins, where is the 5 new boilers going to be?
So, Commissioner Knight, they're already installed. They just want a part of the PM that we had, the contract. So they're already there. We were just adding them to our service agreement. They're emergency boilers, and they're smaller, but we wanted to incorporate those.
All right. Item 1, 2. Any other questions?
With the item.
Have a motion. Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkins. Human Resources.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We have 1 item, and this is the contract to conduct annual surveys of county employees to assess employee engagement, commitment, job satisfaction in order to obtain feedback from the employees.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, but I have a question.
Okay,
This contract is for
3 years.
3 years at $159,000 a year, and we're
No, 53 a year.
159 for 3, yeah, 53,000 per year. But that doesn't include the personnel that will be actually coming and working with our people as far as their travel, their meals, their plane tickets, their housing, their rental cars. How much of that will they be coming here, number one, for on-site service, and number two, didn't we have Sienna doing something like this before?
So yes, I'll start with the latter question. I have two members of my team who can handle the first question. Yes, in 2017, there was a countywide employee survey administered by Sienna. So you're correct. We referenced in the county's 5-year strategic plan, in the 2020 plan, that we would actually conduct another survey. So this is the reasoning behind this contract in terms of those conversations held with Perceptics and that actual vendor in terms of any consulting that would take place outside of this contract. I would refer to either Lauren Warren, she's on the call, or Matt Lujan.
All right,
So, yeah, we did have Sienna do it before, and we looked real hard at all the different options, and this group gives us tools to take the data we get from the employees and helps us formulate action items to make sure we follow up. So if somebody's got a good idea or something we can improve on, we want.
well, I don't recall seeing this 2017 Sienna report, maybe.
That was our culture and climate survey, correct? That was part of our exit plan. But yeah,
Correct.
it was that was a culture and climate survey that was presented in the monthly report that was provided.
Did we?
Do we pass?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Well,
Yes, yeah, there was a presentation to the court, and it was also provided to you all. This is when we were doing our monthly visits to just.
I didn't.
Commissioner, I know most of
I
this.
may have seen.
Yes, you did.
I don't remember seeing. That's what I'm saying.
Most of this system too is
Absolutely.
digital and cloud-based, so I don't expect much travel expenses at all for this.
I understand it, but. Okay. Have a motion second. All in favor, please say aye.
Mr. Green?
Thank you.
Have a motion second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, information technology, economic development. From economic development, we have just an amendment to the fourth study. No new money, it's the same money, just a contract issue where the city was supposed to sign off on this as well. They did theirs separately and sent the money to RPC. We were sending our money directly to the port to support the study, so it was not a pass-through RPC, which is I had a motion in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and the next is a mainframe migration from Microsoft Azure. Shreya, you want?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. We have one item for your consideration. It's our Astaria mainframe migration contract, the existing contract. This is for an extension of contract period until September 30th, 2023, and there's no cost to the company.
I'll move it.
All in favor, please say aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shreya. And just a thank you for all the prayers and thoughts about with the shooting in Cahaba Heights. That community was, that part of the district was pretty shocked. It's not something that normally goes on, and especially with the age of the folks and it being in the church specifically. And a friend of mine, his mom was the last victim to die. And
Bill Thompson's.
And Bill Thompson's father-in-law, he was the first to be shot. It's unfortunate, and that kind of violence is very unfortunate, but especially when those folks have lived a lifetime and this is the way they go out, it's unfortunate. But as I've mentioned to other commissioners and other folks I've talked to, that stuff goes on in the county all the time, and so just because it was in Vestavia and not Birmingham, I think we should be concerned about the culture and the mental health of our community. So, and it starts with the young kids and how do we change that. So thank you again for the thoughts and the prayers.
I want to say, one thing, I was watching the news last night, and Commissioner Tyson, you were on the news. It was about, there was some help and assistance, some people in jail, couldn't get out, some women. And kudos to you for that. That was a good thing. Are they all coming to stay with you? I mean, that's important to know where
They
how they go.
they have been placed, right now. They put them up because all of the agencies was closed. They put them up at the Homewood Suites. They are being picked up now by agency and taken to one group. 4 different agencies, because 2 of them had drug addiction, 2 of them had mental illness. And those are the ones that really was homeless. So they are placing them in agencies now.
They were violent criminals.
No, just little petty crimes, panhandling in the wrong places, sleeping in doorways. But they had been in there for like, one of them had been in there since November, the other one had been in there since January. And they just had been in there it was just too long. And when the agency reached out to me, and I don't know where these women get my number from, they called me, and I had the number from that agency. So I called them, and they came down from Dothan, Alabama, and they fed the women. They actually put them up. There was a really nice hotel. And they should be transported now, but I can't communicate with them after I go do this last interview. I can't communicate with them anymore because I'm not a part of their network. I was just someone that brought everybody together.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
And it was 12 women all together.
Good for you.
We have continuing issues with our garbage service. We need to work through the county manager's office to get that message out that we are working on a solution for that, and ask people to be patient. I think we need to probably establish a hotline where the people who don't have service can get that service. You know, if you're going to double the price on something, you're going to expect service for that. And right now, we're not receiving service and the price is double. So I have a lot of angry individuals, rightfully so, and they're looking at their commission to fix it. And we have limited things that we as a commission can do. So one of those things we can do is that we can communicate what's going on and have an open line of communication with our constituents to let them know that the process is in place and please be patient, and that there is a means in which to contact the waste disposal people and have them engaged in getting their bang for their buck.
They turned down Lipscomb. They actually don't want their contract renewed with them because they were not tagged on to like a utility bill where they can assure their money. They were collecting the money, so it was 3 agencies have turned them down. So now they're looking for an agency to actually.
It's going to be difficult right now in this environment to get anyone to bid on the contract. And you can't, our citizens don't understand that there's no one out there that wants to participate in garbage service. And so it's going to be very difficult to get that done, and we're going to have to look at some other alternatives to try to rectify this. But we just need to buy that time through this increase.
There was another large municipality that put it out to bid, and they got no
bids.
Yeah.
So we can if we find out anything that we can help Lipscomb, because I went out there yesterday. It's piles of trash.
Well, in the summertime, if you don't have garbage pickup, what in the world are you going to? That's what I try to tell my citizens. I said, our alternative is none.
Right.
So you
Yes,
either,
they
you either
have
do what
none.
they do or none.
They have none.
And what are you gonna do if you have none? So, be patient. We're working through a solution and we'll do what
And
we
it was
can.
about an average of $10 a month increase.
I think it was.
It was a 45, or, I don't know, it was over a 3-month contract. It went from 45 to 75, I think.
Yeah.
So that's about a $10 a month increase, which, you know, and I don't blame people. Right now, you know, hell, nobody can afford another tack on of high prices.
Getting it left and right.
Well, and we understand, and we're working, but we have limited options.
And I would say too, the option y'all exercised, our bill is about $25 a month. The other counties and cities that are bidding out, what we're seeing either no bids, no service, or $28 to $32 per month. So I think we did it. We got to, you know, we're still $5 less than what we're seeing out there.
But the garbage companies, like you said, need to step it up.
It needs to be A plus.
Do a better job.
And then those, I think y'all having a tough time too, because they have that backdoor service. Those Mount Broken driveways are long and steep. So,
And they want them to come up to the driveway and get their trash and put it all the way down. But then they didn't want to pay extra money, the guy said, in order for them to go up there, because the drivers they had, quit.
And that's drivers are,
And when it work for
I
the
think
services, they don't have to walk up the driveway.
I don't know.
I'd like to add too, thank y'all for investing in our infrastructure. Inflation's tearing us up, but we're still making a lot of improvements in our road system, in our sewer systems, and in our buildings. We're in a much better place than we were 5 years ago. And staying focused and doing less, but still we are making a lot of improvements.
And congratulations to Angela, she won, I think it was CFO of the year. Yeah, I'm trying to get on national news.
Meeting adjourned.